Okay.
I don't know if Scott's
That was
going to
cool.
survive this.
Yeah, you know, he chose to take drugs and go to work. I think it's his fault.
Yeah.
Huh? What?
Drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs.
That has to stay. I hope you're recording right now.
I am. I'll have to see what he said after.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't tell you. It'll be so much better.
Okay.
Now we're going to have to explain why you feel sick. Okay.
All right. Go for it.
Okay. So let's just, well, we don't need to do an intro where it's just bodybuilding. Everyone knows that. Big Ron, Dusty,
We don't do intros.
Scott. Yeah, I like it how we did an intro for the guest episode and then no intro for this one. And now we're going to get those people. You need the intro.
We had
Yeah, they
people
got
that
real
missed the
specific.
intro. We did. Yeah.
I know. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell. Ring the bell. And don't
ring
forget
the
mutant.
bell. And 20% off with our codes, Big Ron 20 and Dusty 20.
Both.
IamMutant.com.
No smart remarks, Dusty.
No, I'm leaving it this. You know, you didn't know this, but when you were unavailable, I actually said only yours worked last week.
He did.
In your honor.
Really?
It was nice of him.
In
He
your
didn't even
honor, I
mention
was
his
like,
code.
only Big Ron's works. But
He
mine
didn't
still
even
works
mention
too.
his code. I saw the post. I saw the post of the dog.
I felt so. Yeah, you didn't see that, Scott, or maybe you did. But one of my clients, he bought a bunch of stuff, and he owns a rescue, and so there was the dog by it, and it's a dog that I love. And he was like, "Don't forget to use my friend Dusty's code." And then the next one was, "I heard it's the only one that works."
He's got other people spreading his propaganda now.
This is how lies become facts, right here.
This is what the media does this all the time. Just tell one of the news channels that your code is the only one that works, and everyone will think that that's true.
It's the end of it.
Fake news. That's my favorite, that's probably my favorite term that came out of politics over the last few years. Fake news.
Yeah.
This sounds so funny.
Oh, speaking of fake news, I have a clip I want to share with you guys.
Our specialty.
Yeah, check this out. This is on
stuff on Amazon. Yeah. Somebody asked me, by the way, the housing market in Australia, yes, it's going down. End of story.
Yeah.
Ron Partlow, who just turned, I don't know how old, he had a birthday, but he had asked me about 8 months ago, and I said, I will 100% guarantee you, Ron, where you live, that housing prices are going to be going down. 100%. Not 95, not 92. 100% guarantee.
That was about it. But I heard your name today, so I had to grab that clip. And happy birthday to you.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had a great birthday. I saw Dusty. Dusty sent me a little birthday video. I saw that. That was very nice. And Chris wished me a happy birthday too. Nice to hear from the technician. He said, "Ron, I consider you a friend in an industry full of misfits and retards."
I know how you spelled it too. That's amazing. That's fantastic. And then you had the anniversary party too, right?
Yeah, we had a 5-year anniversary at the gym.
5 years. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wild.
So obviously been through a lot. Everyone that's ever been a part of the gym has been awesome. And yeah, it's crazy. Still there, not supposed to be there. Remember, gyms don't last 2 years statistically. So yeah, we're really happy to be around, man. Went really well. Everyone came down. There was cake and donuts. We had all the post-workout carb violations that bodybuilders overindulgently eat. And it was a good time of year to have it because almost all the shows are done. There's just like one more regional show left this year. So most people aren't dieting. So there was a lot of when, my business partner, Corey, he went and picked up donuts. And I was like, are we going to need this many donuts? I was like, this is way too many donuts. And then at the end of the day, there was nothing left.
There you go.
They're gone.
Okay. So, it's the right time of year for donuts. Check.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. It was cool to see though. You guys had a lot of your members were sharing the celebration on their Instagram, which I think is really cool because it shows that they belong. You know what I mean? Like more than just
Yeah.
a gym member. It's home, which is cool.
Yeah, no, it's good. Members were like, they were doing like chest, and then they were eating a mini cupcake and then doing biceps. Everyone was like experimenting with intra-workout carbs. It was pretty funny.
Sounds like Planet
There's
Fitness.
one guy standing there. Yeah, the one guy is standing there eating a donut, and I go, some post-workout carbs. He goes, actually, I just finished deadlifting. I'm going to go do pull downs.
But I didn't want to miss this chance for the donut.
Intra-workout donuts.
He's like, they were going fast. They were going fast. You know?
I ain't judging
There was
him.
only
That's what I
one
would've
maple
done.
left. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was a really good
Awesome.
time. Had a positive weekend. So we're pretty happy. Oh, I got a message from you here. It said if I need to, I could go through my speakers, but that was just from when we were having sound difficulties.
Yes, yeah, that was before the interview when you were trying to get things situated. Yes.
There we go. You get a technical message from Scott. You got to make sure. Are we up to date on what's going on?
yeah,
Wait
yeah.
at
We are
least
good
an
now.
hour and a half before you read it. That's the key.
Here's what I want to know. Does Dusty have any overrated or underrated for us this week?
People love that.
I didn't even prepare any because I got questions.
Well, that's good.
You
Then
know?
You
can
got questions. Okay.
leave people, you know,
I
you
got
want to keep
questions.
the...
We're going to make them want more.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's
Okay,
been,
well,
there's been a lot going on.
We'll work in our
Ron's
opinion.
birthday took up all of my focus. All day Friday, all I thought about was Ron's birthday. So,
We did have somebody who was
No one
very
believed that.
upset, by the way. A couple people. We had in the comments, there were debates over Five Guys, whether that was overrated or underrated. And we did have one listener, I wanted to apologize to him. He was he said that we should stick to talking about bodybuilding because we don't know anything about Jim Morrison. There was that. So,
Well, I know a little
who's
bit
to
about
say
the
we
Wizard
know a
King.
lot about bodybuilding?
yeah. he didn't agree with our opinion, but I reminded him that they were opinions at that.
Yeah, that's the
My
thing about
opinions
opinions.
are facts.
Yeah. My
I'm just
opinions
saying.
are facts. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So he thinks. So then he thinks he just disagrees and thought Jim Morrison was underrated. 'Cause I said
Well,
overrated,
yeah, he
that's
said that that like colleges are still analyzing his poetry to this day, and you weren't alive in the '60s, which is true. We couldn't see the influence that it's kind of like, you know what I have always thought is I'm not a big Elvis fan, and when I hear his music, it doesn't really do that much for me. But I could only imagine if you were like in the '50s and you heard Elvis for the first time, like, you know, we're too far beyond that to really have that kind of appreciation, I guess.
Yeah,
It would hit
so
deeper, but he was so big, you still knew.
But
You know, I mean, he changed the game,
Yeah,
which we do know. You know,
yeah.
I can't
I've
say that,
heard-
you know, and I don't know the poetic side, but I can't say that Jim Morrison changed the fucking game.
I know.
So I'm gonna piss him off twice.
So here's the thing about the Elvis movie. I'm gonna piss him off twice. I heard the Elvis movie is fantastic and really
saw it.
well done.
Huh.
Oh, okay. What did you think, Dusty?
It was my only. This is what I'm sure you guys have experienced this. It felt a little long, and then when I realized the only way they could have shortened it where it would have worked the length of time would have been not play the whole song when he's performing. But then I realized if you're a huge Elvis fan, you would be pissed if they took that out.
Yeah.
So I was
Is
like,
it a
I guess they.
musical? Is
No.
it a
But
musical?
when he's performing his own music, you know, when he's performing, they show him on stage. But you know how a lot of movies, they'll show like them 30 seconds of it, and then they kind
Right.
of pan out. They play the
they
whole
go
song.
pretty long on it. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time he's on stage, they play the whole song. And I'm like, I know the songs.
Yeah.
We could have chopped 25 minutes off this movie and it would have had the same delivery to me. But the actual storyline and everything was great. And I learned a bunch that I didn't know about that whole scene and him and the financial
His
side.
manager.
His manager took half of his money. And plus, you know, which is wild.
Yeah,
So yeah,
the whole
it's
thing
definitely
about-
worth seeing.
Most people don't know about the whole, like, they don't even know about the army. Most people don't even realize that Elvis was in the army, you know, while he was famous, wasn't he? Like he's
that's
in
incredible.
the army while he was famous. Like
Yeah.
it's fucking weird, you know?
It is.
And then the whole Priscilla thing, her being what, 14?
Yeah, they went in depth on everything. It was, frowned upon, maybe illegal even.
But it was Elvis. He couldn't do any wrong. Come on, guys, Elvis, let him go.
He's pretty rich. Just let our daughter date him.
Yeah.
I'd be like, absolute. How much?
Yeah,
as long as
they
no
call
prenup.
that pimping your daughter right now. They call pimping out your daughter.
Hey,
now.
no, your job is to protect her future. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, protecting her future. That's what you're doing. Okay,
It's all in how you look
it
at
worked.
things.
Her future
Exactly.
was very financially stable, seeing as she still owns the rights to his catalog, doesn't she?
Yes. Oh, that's amazing.
Have you, speaking of TV shows, have you guys watched any of that new Dahmer show?
We're 4 episodes in.
I've been watching that too. What do you think?
I mean, I know a bit about Dahmer because I remember that happening.
Me
right?
too.
I remember watching the news and that happening and stuff. And I'm really interested to watch this because Dahmer told them everything.
Yeah, he really did, didn't he?
Dahmer, he was, well, I mean, you can tell right off the bat, he's not really trying that hard to not get caught.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, what he was doing, he was taking people back to his own apartment and killing them and eating them.
Basically,
and eventually, if you're taking everyone back to your own fucking apartment, eventually someone's going to catch you. It stunk. The neighbors were reporting all these smells and problems and noises and fights going on. And he knew he was going to get caught. I mean, there's several scenes where you see how he just is willing to be caught and they don't catch him. Like that time that the cops find him outside with that kid that he's drilled a hole in his head.
Yeah.
And they're afraid to deal with them because they know they're gay. They're like, oh, they're just gay guys. Just take them back to your apartment.
Going doing gay stuff. We'll go back in your apartment.
Gay stuff. Just go back inside. And he takes the kid who he's just given a lobotomy to.
Yeah.
With a drill. He takes the kid back inside. The cops don't even ID the kid. Don't even ask any questions.
No.
They just go about their business. That sort of shit happened. He was totally willing to be caught. And then when they caught him, his attitude was like, yeah, I got to be stopped.
Yeah.
I can't control myself. Here's what I've been doing. And he told them everything.
That actor, so that was the guy from American Horror Story, right?
Awesome. Great.
So
I love
good.
him from that. He was awesome in that show. Yeah.
And he's great
he's
in
the
this.
new season too.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's great in this. And you know what I was thinking, Ron, because I thought of you because we're talking about acting. We're talking about famous movies. It's right up your alley. I feel like he couldn't play this role without thinking about the guy from Silence of the Lambs, who was kind of patented after Dahmer as well. And he kind of, you can see a little bit of that in him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really good.
I love all the memes. I love the meme where he's sitting on the bed because he wants to watch movies, right? Come back to my place and watch a movie, right?
Yeah.
And the meme where he's like, you can leave after Ronnie Coleman squats 800 pounds. And it's the video of Ronnie Coleman squatting 800 pounds. You just have to stay until he squats 800 pounds. Those memes are killing me. You have to watch it to get the memes, but they're funny. But he's been good, and it's very it's fucked up. And I knew about his childhood with the taxidermy fascination and the cutting up dead animals thing that he did as a kid.
Yeah. And
it sort of got disguised under our kid's really into science.
Yeah.
Right.
Our kid is really into science. He wants to, we found a dead animal on the side of the road and he dissected it and, saw where the heart was and the lungs and he was doing it on a table and his dad showed him how to got a fish and his dad showed him how to do all this stuff. And they just thought he was into
It was nice that he finally was taking an interest in something.
Yeah, he's so interested in this science thing, animals and science. Maybe he'll be, maybe he'll want to be a zoologist or something.
Maybe he'll be famous.
Later, he says he just didn't think he could get caught. He was surprised that he didn't. And then watching the show, I went and watched an interview with him, and he was super open and candid about it. And honestly, just the way he talks is so matter of fact. Like you could be talking to your neighbor when they say, oh, I'm so surprised. I never would have expected this guy to do something. I mean, people thought he was weird, but if you were to just meet him out on the street and you're just asking him for directions or something, you'd never think that this guy was was what he was. He's, to me, he's one of the scariest serial killers. He's just, it's so gross. Everything about that.
You guys will love this. So my video guy and friend Todd,
Yeah.
that did all my videos. So he's telling me that his first Jeep that he bought, he gets it and he needs to tint the windows. So he finds this guy and goes over to his place. The guy tints his windows. That he just hung out there and chatted with him and hung out. And cool guy. He really enjoyed his time. So something happened and one of the windows broke. So he needed one redone. So he called him up and the guy's like, oh, well, where are you at? I'll just come to you and knock out the one window. So he did. And then he had lived at his mom's house at the time. The guy came over. They invited him in for dinner. They hung out the whole bit, whatever. And then he was on his way. Didn't see him. And then like a year and a half later, he's on the news and they're like, they found heads in his freezer.
Holy shit.
And he's like, I know where that freezer was. I was in that fucking garage. Like the dude's like a fucking murderer. And literally he goes, I'm sitting there, I'm on the news. He's like, he sees his face pop up and he's like, that's the guy who tints my windows.
Man,
terrifying.
Well, he's got to have some job somewhere. Yeah. Someone knows him.
Well, it's like, it's like we were saying with Josh, you got to do something while you're working on your passion. Yeah. He was tinting windows and cutting heads off.
Yeah.
I just imagine, like you said, you're shocked. You're like, that guy had dinner at my mother's house.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, wild.
Oh, yeah.
Wild.
If you're not watching Dahmer, it's pretty good, man. The acting's great. I think we're 4 episodes in now.
We're somewhere.
How many are
there?
Too.
I don't know.
Seeing the backstory, how they go back and they kind of show his like high school and how he was. Yeah, he's just a different kid, man. And I mean, I know how it ends, but it's still interesting to watch. Watch the depiction.
So I have one
and
question because I don't know. Crazy. Did he pre-select his people, or how did he go about finding victims?
He didn't pre-select. It was opportunity. Like he'd go out looking to meet somebody. He usually went to like gay bars and picked up guys. So it was kind of
so he had no idea who it was. Yeah, right. I knew they were gay guys. I didn't know if there was an individual that he was going for or whatever. So he just anyone who would come home to watch a movie, huh?
And there was a big racial element to this too, because he lived in a bad neighborhood. So a lot of the people he was picking up were minorities, and the police, like Ron said, didn't want to have anything to do with the gay stuff, and they didn't want to have anything to do with black people either. They just didn't care. Period. So
they're like, we don't know what's going on in this.
Yeah, they're like, you people, you get arrested all the time and stuff. All that. There was that attitude back then. And that he was like, a good old white boy. So he actually had gone to jail at one point, which I saw in the interview, and that they let him out pretty, like he should have been put away a lot sooner. But people weren't paying attention because he was just a good white guy. That's what he was looked at as.
And also the gay thing. Remember the first time he deals with the cops and they go, hey, can we come inside and have a look?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah,
Even though he's got a fucking dead body on his bedroom floor. He lets the cops in.
Yeah.
And they come in, but they know that he's gay and they don't want to touch anything. And they even crack jokes. They're like, what are you doing living in here? This is a crack house. And he's like, oh, it's really cheap. And they're like, yeah, I bet. And then, but like they're assuming that he shouldn't be living there because he's white. Like, what are you doing living here? And he's like, well, it's really cheap. And they're like, yeah, I bet it is. And then they're like, they barely come inside his apartment because they don't want to touch anything. And this is like, this is the late 80s, I guess. So there's still a lot of like the AIDS stuff. And they're even make jokes. They're like, oh, well, we got to go wash our hands after being in here.
Yeah.
And,
which
the one cop says,
true.
probably true.
Yeah, but not for why they thought.
Yeah. And then like the one cop says, I'm going to go have a look around. And he basically just kind of looks down the hallway. And he's like, looks good. Like they don't want to be in there. They don't want to do anything. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of stands there and lets them leave.
Yeah.
And they leave. And it's unfucking believable because he's got a dead body on his floor. Like
now I have to watch this.
It's disturbing. It's disturbing.
And that's all very early. That's all like, first episode shit. So it's not like it's a surprise, but
I'll catch up to you guys today.
It's good, man. It's good. So there's a lot of times you're just like, fuck.
Yeah. Especially that first episode was like really intense, wasn't it?
The first episode was very intense. Yeah, there's a lot of just like fucking white knuckling going on there.
Yeah.
They do a great job. That like that little apartment, they make that whole first episode really good. So my recommendation anyway, Scott's too. So you got some questions, Dusty? Because I got a bunch.
Yeah, I'm pulling them up. So you do. If you have one on the mind, kick it.
I've got a bunch of stuff too. I'll throw something up then. Also too. It was Michael Devereaux, Dusty. Last week, Ron, we showed a video that one of our listeners sent us of his home gym. Thing was immaculate. And he said, glad you like the gym. It's a 40 by 40 pole barn next to my house that I built just for the gym. He's in the middle of Indiana, and the shoulder press did arrive. So throw that out there.
I was coming that day.
Yeah.
The shoulder press that he didn't have.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, I'll throw one up here while you guys find some other stuff. This is from Connie, one of our I'll say our OG listeners or viewers on YouTube. Dusty and Scott, love the gym review question. Thoughts on amounts of amazing dudes, the amount of amazing dudes qualified for the O this year? Isn't there 31 qualified and points guys too? It's going to be great. I'm glad I'm not a judge. Is there 31 people qualified for the Olympia?
I didn't know that.
Don't know about that.
I got to figure this stuff out, guys. I bought tickets. I'm heading out there, so
31 seems high because I remember 03 was like 17 and it was a lot.
Yeah.
I just don't know how I don't know how 31 could have qualified. So maybe it's both classes. Is it really 31?
Nope. There's 31 qualified. I'm looking at the list right now.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's wild. I don't know how. Your top 5 are automatic.
I'll read them. It'll be quick.
Yeah.
It's Nick Walker, Nathan Diash, Ramy, Brandon Curry, Hadi, Hunter, Sean Clarita, Regan Grimes, Samson, Rafael Brando, Angel Calderon Frias from Spain, Joel Thomas from USA, William Bonac, Blessing, Charles Griffin, Mohammed Shaban from Egypt, Hassan Mustafa, Mohammed Al-Nzur from Jordan, Vitor Boff from Brazil, Andrea Presti from Italy, that real freaky dude.
Yeah.
Ian Valère, Antoine, Akeem, Andrew Jacked, Vladislav Sukhorhuchu from Ukraine. Sukhorhuchu. Yeah, that's a hard last name. Derek Lunsford, Patrick Johnson, Tony O'Burton, and James Hollingshead.
Jeez.
And then the top points. The top 4 point standing is Justin Rodriguez, Andrea Musi from Italy, Theo Leguer from France, and Steve Kluko are the top 4 point getters.
Wow.
And there's a lot of guys with points. Holy shit.
So you guys will be there,
So
right?
that's a big Olympia. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll look forward to seeing you in person.
And the 212 looks fucking just the same. There's like 30 guys in the 212. What?
We just glad you're going to survive this.
I'm just glad you're going to be there, Scott.
Thank you.
You know,
Yes, since you ditched us. Are you going to come to the Arnold as well? Because we've already booked the Arnold for next year.
Have you really? Yeah, I'm definitely going. There's no question about that. I've got to be there.
So what are we going to do? We have to do something together.
Yes.
Well, I was thinking we should tell people, like, I would love to stop by the booth because I'm sure you guys will be at the Mutant booth for a good portion of that time. I would love to arrange something like, hey, if you guys are listeners of the show, like, let's all meet up over there at Mutant at some point. You know, that would be cool. That way, because
if you want to meet the listeners, you could just be there all day.
Yeah.
Because every single person that walks up tells us they listen to the show. It's mind-boggling still.
Well, we should arrange.
It was mind-boggling at the Arnold, and it was even weirder as the year went on because the number went up.
You want to see something cool? Let's arrange something where we stopped traffic at the Best Bar Ever booth a couple of years ago at the Arnold. Like, they came over and had to tell us, like, hey guys, you can't all be standing here, because the other booths couldn't. Like, it was pretty cool.
You fucked up traffic. That's awesome. By the way, I had a suggestion.
Yes.
From a viewer and a client of mine, Ed, and he said that he thinks that we need to every now and then bring Skip on to this show.
Okay.
And he thinks that the rants would be out of control and it would be very entertaining for him. And I was like, fuck it, I'm in.
We should get Skip on. Yeah. I wanted to get you guys with Dave Crossland as well. And I wanted him, he's talked to me in person when I was out there in the UK. You guys have all three bounced. So I want you guys to be able to share bouncing stories. He was telling me some crazy stories about like a guy breaking an ashtray over his head. He was telling me he was like, I couldn't punch that hard, but I could get hit and nobody could knock him down. So I feel like you guys would have some good stories.
Well, Ron did say it at Holiday Inn Express once. So.
Yeah. I could tell you about the closest I ever came to being knocked out.
Yeah.
I never been knocked out before, but the closest I've ever come to being knocked out was we were breaking up a fight, and I pulled a guy back, and he was like a buddy of mine. I was like, hey, like stop, and I was patting him. I was like, I got you, we got you. The fight's over. And some guy sucker punched him in the side of the head. Mm-hmm. And then his head hit me in the temple.
Ooh.
And that was the hardest I've ever been hit. I didn't go down, but I remember the whole room closed to a little hole of light, and I was just trying to stay, and I was like, and then I opened back up, and I fucking got my balance. And then the guy that punched him, the doormen were all over him and throwing him out and all that sort of stuff. So it was over as soon as it happened, and no one really even knew that no one was paying attention to me. They were all the fight was being taken care of, and I was just all by myself, holy fuck. That fucking was the hardest impact my head's ever had.
God.
But yeah. But I didn't get knocked out.
You guys want another question from the YouTube people?
Shoot. Yes.
All right. Marcus Hall says, hey guys, question for the next episode. I'm 29, been cycling on and off for 5 years. I've just added finasteride. I remember this question. So he was basically asking if we thought finasteride would have any kind of deleterious effects on bodybuilding.
Well, I know guys that have tried to take it and had to quit because of sexual side effects.
Yeah.
It was interfering with them, and it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
And they just said, fuck it, I'll just shave my head. I never tried to take it at all. I never bothered with it.
Yeah, I didn't either. Obviously. I have no hair.
All right. I had something better. I'm sure. DC training discussion made me curious about Dusty's diet. What was your diet like at the time when you were gaining all that size? I believe he mentioned that he didn't really measure food. How did that work? And what adjustments were made to get over plateaus?
So it's not that there were no measurements made. It's that I would have a meal, say it was 8 ounces of meat with the meal and a certain amount of carbs. If I finished that and I could eat more, I would. So there was a baseline, but you really let your appetite determine eating. So on leg days, I was always more hungry, so I could eat more food. On off days, I ate less food because I was less hungry. I mean, it was pretty simple, but the baseline amount of food was well above, obviously, what was needed to break even. But I'm always cautious with that because a lot of people would hear that, especially my clients that do that, and they'd be like, we don't do that. You have to factor in genetics. For me to get fat would take effort. To actually get, and I've done it, don't get me wrong, when I was trying to grow when I was a kid and didn't know what I was doing, the excess I was eating by using 3 meals from McDonald's a day achieved the goal of getting fat. Yeah.
3?
Oh yeah. I was fucking a mess. I was like, protein, fat, carbs. That's all I got to do. Got to eat protein, fat, carbs. And that's cheap shit. Yeah. So, but when you're eating clean foods for someone with a decent metabolism, it was never a worry. that I was going to gain fat. You know, I mean, a little bit, but not bad. You know, I haven't measured food in forever. So, but back then, so I don't, again, explaining what I did, but it's not what I do with clients. Because the problem I have with most people too is they're not missing, they're not crazy enough in the head. So if I were to tell most of my clients to eat what they wanted, most of them wouldn't eat enough. I've had the few that would eat way too much because they have a crazy metabolism, but most people, they'd be well short, because we've all done that. I mean, when I used to own the stores, it was always funny to me to ask somebody like, I've eaten so much. And I'm like, cool, tell me what you ate today or yesterday. Then they read off their diet. And I'm like, it sounds like about 120 grams of protein. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you eat like a bird, kid. Not enough.
Yeah.
So
I always found, like, even when I used to get real heavy, I would hit a default body fat and it wouldn't go above that. So
Yep.
I would get fatter than people do nowadays because everyone's trying to stay so tight for Instagram. So I would get like,
Waist.
you know, I would hit 14% body fat.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't worried about it, but it wouldn't really go any higher than that. Like, I remember those times when I was 320 and I'd eat like a large pizza and a milkshake and go to bed. And I'd wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm down a pound from the day before. Like, I can't even hold my weight. Like, you know, it wasn't like predictable. It wasn't like, oh, this pizza is going to make me gain weight. Like, sometimes you'd eat the pizza and you'd be like, what the fuck happened? Like, your body's just burning through this.
Yeah, you're leaner the
You know,
next day.
you wind up having cheat meals daily because you're like, well, my weight keeps dropping. If I just have 2.5, 3 cups of rice with every meal, the scale drops. I got to like keep this weight up. So you're having a steak and 2 cups of rice and then a pint of ice cream.
Yeah.
And then, like, I remember doing that all the time, like every day. These guys now that think, oh, I had my cheat meal, my one cheat meal. I'm like, that's great. Like, we did that every day.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should be getting fatter. I'm just saying we weren't worried. We weren't worried as much, you know?
I think the other thing though too is you were always getting your food down too. That's the issue I have with my clients is, even on the days that they do their planned cheat meal, I tell them all your other meals, we're replacing one meal with a cheat meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the other meals have to go down like business as usual. That one meal is a trade. And more times than not, I have to push people's cheat meal to the last meal of the day. Because if not, they don't eat their food.
Yeah.
They're like, I missed 2 meals because I was so stuffed. I'm like, then it defeated the purpose. Like, you know, because there is a purpose for the cheat meal beyond you enjoying a cheeseburger. I don't care if you enjoy it or not. It's actually a benefit for me to use in your program, you know? So I have a good question though. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Advice on how to build self-confidence.
Well, I just watched a thing on this the other day. Confidence was a martial arts guy on Lex Friedman, and he was saying real confidence comes from successfully achieving goals. That's what builds it. We talk about all these other things, but if you break it down, successfully achieving goals is the bread and butter of building confidence. So if you encounter someone, like, let's say you're trying to help someone build confidence, the best thing to do is to just set a small short-term goal that you know they can achieve and help them achieve it. And then point out that it's achieved. Go, look what you did. You set the goal to squat 225 for 10. You just did it. That's
right.
Check. Big fucking check mark. Now we're going to do this. And you have to start small. And if you have poor confidence and you're trying to build up your own confidence, you have to treat yourself the same way. You have to start small, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just, I think you know, it all comes from my bodybuilding background, like just all those little steps we did. I remember the day I hit 200 pounds. I remember calling my friend and being like, I was 200 pounds today. And he's like, no way. Like,
right.
Like, it was, you know, I wasn't, you know, I knew I wanted to be huge one day, but I knew that my first goal was to be 200 pounds. Like, I had to be 200 pounds. And then after that, it was, you know, 205 and 210. It's at setting those small goals that you can achieve And that's how you build your confidence. That's the only way you really build confidence. You know, you can get lucky here and there with something, and it might give you a bit of temporary confidence, but you'll always know that, like, fuck, I kind of got lucky there. Like, let's say you don't play baseball. You don't play baseball,
Right.
but you're having a fun, like, you're playing a fun game of baseball with, like, the coworkers, right?
Right.
And you go up there and you crank a home run. Well, that's going to build a little bit of confidence, but you know you got lucky. You know, like,
Right.
reproducing that might be difficult. Like, they call you up the next time and go, let's see another homer. And you're like, oh, fuck, you're not really that confident.
Right.
But if you practice and you hit a lot of balls and you crank a bunch on your own, you build real confidence. And now you're like, give me the fucking bat. I'm going to show these guys, you know? And he was talking about how every once in a while we have a little bit of confidence, like, injected into something we do, but there's always that thought that, hey, that was kind of that one time I got lucky. You got to repeat it. You got to repeat it. So that's my take.
You know, I applied that in my personal life. I remember after getting out of a long-term relationship and not being used to dating, like, I just wasn't used to talking to girls at all. And so my goal was to not to, like, actually try to pick a girl up, but just to, like, go out of my way to talk to a girl that I didn't know, you know, start some sort of conversation, and then just to engage that conversation, ask a question or something, create some sort of dialogue. And that was good. Like, that was my first thing. And I'd go, like, if I went to the mall, I'd like find 3 people or something like that and just engage in a conversation. And that in itself, I think, did build my confidence, you know?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What do you think, Dusty?
I love the answer, because I actually didn't have an answer to that question, because I've always been confident, and it's because of what you said, Ron. My entire life was sports and things and motorcycles. And now, in hindsight, whether they knew it or not, my dad always put me in a position to set another goal. You know, like, we weren't in the protect your kids age. My dad was the one that was like, okay, we bought you a motorcycle. We noticed you made a jump 5 feet high. What if we make it 7 feet high? See if you can go higher. You know what I mean? And that was, I mean, I know Ron's the same. Like, that was the era we grew up in. And, you know, mom's out there watching while you're doing this shit, and, you know, stitching you up when needed and putting you back on the bike and be like, all right, try again. So I think literally since, as far as I can remember, goals were set and met all the time. And that's probably why. And I feel like if you set people up that way, especially from a young age, they're kind of confident in everything. I'm confident in things I've never done before. So I'm like, I'll figure it out. I never did any of this shit I do now at one point.
Yeah.
And I did it well. And I also am self-aware enough to know I wasn't genetically phenomenal only at one thing in my entire life. And I've done a lot more than that. So it's like, even if I'm not very good at this, I'll figure it out. So I think that confidence is helpful, because you're like, I've done a lot of shit that I sucked at out the gate and down the line got good at. You know, so, and I think that there becomes a point where you actually enjoy, like we've talked about, Ron, I like trying things I've never done now, and knowing, like, I am a beginner. I don't know shit. That's fun.
Yeah. It's
because you get,
it's interesting
when you get massive, like, if I started, you know, if I lived up by you, Scott, and started shooting with you, I'm going to be terrible. But me today versus me in 3 weeks is drastically more improvement than you today and you in 3 weeks.
Sure.
And that's going to go on for 3 years. So it's awesome to get that progression, you know?
Absolutely.
And again, that's more confidence, because you're like, fuck, remember the first time? I didn't know where the bullets went. Here we are.
I feel like that's what I live for, is for being able to, you know, that to me, that's fun, right? Like, finding something you enjoy and being able to, like, even this podcast, like, to me, that's what I do. We're trying to get better numbers. We're trying to connect to the listeners better. You know, we're trying to always improve it in some way. It's like everything in my life, I feel like it's kind of that game, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the only thing I'd add to what you said is, I think the biggest thing that gets in the way of people's confidence is the fear of how other people will look at them if it doesn't go well. And that's a weird thing to me. Like everyone's so concerned about what other people are going to think. And I laugh because my close circle knows how many times I've blown a situation, lost a business, you know, lost massive amounts of money, whatever it is. And people know about it and no one remembers it. They only remember the good shit. And everyone's so concerned about looking bad in those instances. I'm like, dude, I've fucked up so bad so many times. And people still come to you like you're an expert. And you're like, whew, okay.
I remember one time my dad said something. I went to a tournament, a Taekwondo tournament. It was the Alberta Winter Games. So like, you know, and I won a gold medal in forms and a silver medal in sparring. And I would have been 13 years old and I was a green belt with a blue stripe. So I remember that. So I remember my age category was 12 to 15.
Yeah.
So I wound up sparring a kid who was 15 for the gold medal and I was 13. And there's a lot of difference between a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old. Like,
for sure.
He had like hair in his armpits and fucking chin whiskers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had like a fucking baby face. I was like fucking this much shorter, you know, like I couldn't even get in close to kick him, you know? And so after the tournament was over, I remember showing my dad the medals and he was like, oh, so you won a gold medal in forms. And I was like, yeah. He goes, oh, okay. Well, if you're really good at forms, then you should be winning gold medals in forms when you're a black belt too. Because you're better at forms than everyone else. So you should win the gold as a blue belt next year and then as a red belt the year after. And then when you're a black belt, you know, 2 years after that, you should still be winning gold medals because obviously forms are something you're really good at.
Right.
And I remember just thinking like, oh, he's kind of right. Like,
absolutely.
you know, if you're showing a lot of promise, if you show a lot of promise at something, you know, then you probably are really good at that. And you should be good at, you should expect that of yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember just thinking like, yeah, that's, and you sort of expect, you know, that carries over into other things you do. You're like, well, if I'm good at this when I'm 14, I should be great at it when I'm 20. Yeah. Fucking unbelievable. Right.
Yep.
So that sort of thinking. There wasn't too much celebrating is my point. I didn't get a pat on the head. Yeah. I got a, you know.
I was gonna say, my dad would have said, "What the fuck happened in the silver one?"
I remember him saying, "So like, what happened? How come he didn't beat the guy for the gold medal?" And I was like, he was 15 years old. I don't know. He's a foot taller than me. And he's like, okay, well, you know. It should be. You know.
I'm glad to know that we had the same father. Good to know.
Yeah. Not too impressed. So.
I found a fun one here. This is
good.
From YouTube. Great show as usual. Question for the next one. At the Olympia, would you rather come in top 3 men's physique or top 16 open bodybuilding?
Top 16 open bodybuilding. How about top 15? How about that?
There you go. I'll take that.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Because 16 is everybody.
16 is the tie spot.
Yeah.
16 is the tie spot. Yeah. I know what he means though, right? That's what he means. That's what he means by that. Yeah.
I agree 100%, but I have to specify why, because I'm not a body. Like, I actually think that men's physique dudes look ridiculous. Other than physiques, I'm just like, fuck, you guys are awesome. So I kind of laugh at the mocking of them because to me, their physiques they're specimen. They just look bonkers. But I always wanted to be a freak. So like even before I knew I had shitty genetics that played in my favor of being a freak, I always wanted to be that. Like I remember when I was a kid, my mom was like, "How big do you want to get?" When I was like 19, I was like, you know, when someone looks at you and they think it's gross, that's what I'm looking for.
I had in my high school yearbook under my goals or whatever, it says to be arrested for gross hugeness. That's what
he took mine a step further.
That is amazing.
To be arrested for gross hugeness. And then I thought, you know, like there was an era where like that would happen in Sweden.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Ask Tony Freeman.
You know what I mean? Or during COVID, like, you've been training.
Yeah.
You know, it almost came true. Almost came true. The Orwellian future where we're like, no, you have too much muscle mass. You're an inefficient use of food. You must be arrested.
Yep. It's not going to work. That's classic.
Okay. Whose question turn is it?
We did make a mistake too, by the way, guys. Remember this question about the legs versus eyes? We had several people
thinking of the fish.
Yeah, we had several people that mentioned the fish.
So what's the answer though? Is that correct?
There would be more
Fish,
Well, you got all the
eyes.
fish would have eyes and no legs. And we were thinking of the centipedes and the bugs. So I don't know, like, is there more insects or fish?
But they're all counted for. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
So we still don't know
That's a
the
very
answer
good
though.
Question.
Yeah, we guess we
We
don't.
we have to get an evolutionary biologist on here to help us with that one.
I'll get one. I know
Or a
one.
zoologist.
Fortunately,
You know,
my
you got a
neighbor right
zoologist
after
in your
Josh
neighborhood?
moved out.
It's evolutionary biologist. Nice.
When Josh moved out, my next neighbor.
Oh man. Okay. Oh, I have one here about they're asking us. So it's a personal question. We've already talked about this a little bit, but have you ever mixed pre-workout and marijuana together for a killer workout?
I mean, I've had both before a workout, but it was never the plan.
It was never the plan.
I never said to
wasn't
myself,
strategy.
these two things together are going to make this workout
I had-
awesome.
I had the pre-workout for the workout, and I had the marijuana because I had to be around family. And they just kind of both coincided early in the day.
Exactly.
And now
That
I'm
sums
training.
up how that could happen. That's a perfect example of the only reason that I could possibly do that.
That's funny. Okay. I know there's a lot of people out in the parking lot.
Are there?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I see it
And then
all the time.
they come in and they scan their tags and they drift past the front desk. And there's a little
float.
float coming off of them. I know they're having a good workout.
I like
That's
to see
good,
them on
though.
the
It's chill.
cardio
I don't mind
machines
it.
because they're just floating on them. You're like, wow.
Like remember Miss Aniston on the stepper down in Metroflex?
Forever. Yes.
You come in and pound her
I will
hour
never
out and
forget.
just float out the door, just drift out and wave at us. See you, boys.
Yeah. She goes, bye.
Bye. Yeah. Well, she got her cardio done. Hey, whatever it takes to get through an hour on the stairs, you know?
I get it. She didn't have Dahmer to watch. Makes sense.
She didn't have Dahmer to watch. Okay. Okay.
It's your turn,
Okay.
Ron.
What's the longest period you've ever taken pre-workout for? Like daily,
Oh, God.
daily use.
Months and months and months, maybe years. When I was in the supplement shop, every day for, I don't know, 9 years. Yes, I didn't stop taking them until, this is actually what's funny. I didn't stop taking them until I got rid of the stores. So, and then I realized that I was taking them almost out of habit.
Sure.
It was just part of like going to the gym. It was like, oh, got to do the pre-workout. And then now, I mean, I still I use the all in, but it's literally like a quarter, I guess a third of a scoop. And I'm good.
You're dropping your
Right,
dose.
perfect.
You're dropping your stim dose as
Oh,
you get
yeah.
older, Dusty.
Well, before it was, I do 8 shots of coffee of espresso a day, and then also have a pre-workout in there. It's like, I would die now. I'd be awake next Monday.
I forgot about your incredible coffee habit. People need.
Should
to
we
keep
be
that
talking
in
about this
mind.
pre-workouts with Scott still wanting to vomit on the other side of this
Yeah,
screen?
I probably
Yeah,
won't
we
be
didn't
taking
really explain.
We didn't. I probably won't be taking pre-workout for a little while now. At this point, I've
Scott
had enough.
Scott did a dangerous thing. Scott obviously gets stuff given to him, and he had a package of what I can only assume was random free pre-workout given to him to try it out.
This
And,
was, I think I got it from an expo at one point. And I
Yeah,
don't know
there
why
you
I
go.
didn't
You
get
gotta
thrown
try it.
out, but I literally went through the cupboard and I was like, it was in the back. And I was like, I guess I'll try this.
Oh no! So it's like, yeah.
I took less than a half a scoop and I'm not feeling so good right now, guys.
Well, you said before the episode, you said you might throw up.
I felt like I might have, like toward the end of the interview with Josh, I was feeling pretty rough, and I'm still like, I'm sweating right now, and I don't feel good. Like, it's not a good feeling. It's not like, oh man, I'm feeling amped. I think there's something in that maybe isn't really good for you, I'm thinking. But
Do you think it's 1,3-dimethyl? Do you think they put some
I don't think
1,3
there's
in
any
there?
1,3-DMA, but there is some nootropics listed. But I mean, I only took, like I said, a half a scoop of this stuff. Oh, there is a proprietary blend.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, you gotta love the proprietary.
I think there
blend.
might be something a little funky in this, but it's not a fun feeling, that's for sure. I'm still like sweating. It's not good. It's not good.
I remember
for those of you that are being
a-
smartasses with his hoodie, it's an inside out sweat. So if he took the hoodie off, they'll be cold.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
don't wonder why he's in a hoodie and complaining about sweating. I
yeah.
had to guard you because I'm
Thank
already ready
you.
for the
Thank
typing.
you.
Like,
Yeah, I
well, you're in a fucking hoodie, moron.
I was sitting here after I trained, getting the questions together for the show, and I was in my shorts and t-shirt, and literally I felt like sweat dripping out of my hair, onto my neck, and at the same time I had goosebumps. Victoria's like, why don't you try taking a shower before? And I took a hot shower before the show, and I felt like, oh, it was so good. But the shower wore off. Now I'm back to crack. This has got to be crack. There's no other thing. I don't know. I've never done crack, but I think this is crack.
We finally got you that drug you never
crack.
took.
By all the evidence I've gathered, this seems to be crack.
Yeah.
I remember I had a herbal diuretic that someone gave me at an expo.
Ooh.
It was like a bottle of super shreds or whatever the fuck it was called. And it was a herbal diuretic.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, that's kind of neat. It looks like a good formula, So I thought, I'll take some of this before my photo shoot because I had a photo shoot coming up. And a serving was 4 caps. And I took 2 caps. And I went to bed. Because I don't want to take a diuretic for this photo shoot. I'll just take a little bit. So I took 2 caps, went to bed, got up and pissed all night long, like crazy. And then in the morning, I'd lost the normal morning weight I expected to wake up at. I was 6 pounds lighter than that.
Holy shit. It's like diazide strong.
And my chest
diazide.
was like flat. And I remember just being blown away, like, holy fuck, there's something in this. This is not normal. Yeah. And I had to rehydrate a bunch, and I was like panicking because I felt like shit. And I asked the gorilla chemist about that.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you think that was? And he goes, they put Lasix in there for sure. There's those small companies, they go to expos with powerful samples and they fucking put something in them to impress everybody, and watch out for those small, sketchy companies at expos.
They put
do that shit.
This is like a Xerox sticker, basically. Adhered to a black package. I don't want to turn it around. Well, I'll fold it down so you can't see the name, but you can see, it says...
so you only want to half protect our listeners, not fully protect them?
Yes. Yeah, I don't want them to see... I don't want them to try...
Well, we kind of want them to learn some of their own lessons, Dustin.
Yeah.
You don't want to bulldoze for them,
Yes. Make sure to add in, by the way, Scott, the pre-episode conversation that Ron and I had should be dropped in right about now.
I will. I got a clip of my own here. How about this one?
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
That's you right now.
From the greatest Chappelle skit ever.
That really was.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Yeah. That's a classic. Okay. I keep meaning to ask a question, but then I get lost. What? So someone's asking, what are we currently listening to while we're working out? They want to know. Not just me. They want to know all of us. What are we currently listening to? What did you have playing today in the stereo, Scott?
I was actually listening to Heavy Muscle Radio to hear what was going on with Redcon 1. So it really wasn't that exciting. But I guess they're bankrupt at this point, which I'm not surprised. But outside of that, I'll listen to dubstep. A lot of angry dubstep.
A lot of angry cats and trash cans fighting.
Exactly. That's what it sounds like. Victoria says it sounds like robots having sex.
Yeah, robots banging away.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
I lately have been in the gym utilizing my AirPods to drown out the music that barely plays in the gym because it's just loud enough to be annoying, but you can't actually hear it. But to also make sure no one talks to me, but I'm not listening to anything. Because I'm in a weird, like, yeah, which is weird. I don't usually do that, but for like the last week, because I'm getting, I shouldn't say that, probably about the last 5 days since I got done moving, I'm getting, like, mentally, I'm really getting back where training is a priority. And I'm just so clear, I don't need the music. Like, I'm literally just like planning the sets and feel good. So that won't be around for long. But I'm actually someone who lets whatever's playing play. And then before a working set, there'll be a specific song in that moment that I'm like, that's the one for this set. Also,
that's interesting.
What's playing in the background during all the warm-ups? Usually I just go on Spotify and pick like workout mix.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like it'll be like a rock workout mix or something like that. Leave it.
Just living so dangerously.
Shocking for a guy who needs everything in line, huh? With the plates. You never know.
Yeah, you need the plates in line and you need everything aerodynamic. You have to have the same shoe on both feet. You need everything to be perfect.
Crazy.
I do that
And then
too.
you just let random things happen to your music. That's amazing.
But you're not, but until it's important, and then it's a very specific part of a specific song, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Then you lock in. Okay. Yeah. It's funny. So this morning, you'll like this, Ron. I got a new Dyson vacuum. Ooh. And we used to have the girls clean the house. And Nikki was like, we'll have them do the floors. And I was like, I got to teach them how to do it the way that I do it. And I go, because and she goes, neurotic. And I'm like, no, that's not the word I was looking for. Like, I was like, that's not a compliment. Like, I do it properly. She goes, neurotic, and then walked out. I was like, okay. So, yeah, that's my description. The neurotic guy who lets whatever play in his ears while he's warming up.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Ron's brokenhearted right now.
Yeah, no, music is something that I have to have control of. Like, it's part of my environment. So I need to control my music. I need my headphones. Even if music I really like is playing. Like, I'll look at the laptop at the gym and it's like a playlist that I really like. But I'm like, oh, I need my own world. Like, so that's, a lot of the headphones is blocking out everything around you, blocking out anything you might hear. So that's why I need to do that. So I'll even put my headphones in and turn them up loud enough to drown out everything. And right now I've actually gone, Scott's going to love this. I'm on an Iron Maiden deep dive. I watched an interview. I watched an interview with Steve Harris, the bass player from Iron Maiden. And I just thought, fuck it. I haven't listened to everything Iron Maiden's ever done. There's a lot of stuff I missed. I appreciate their contribution to metal and everything like that. And they're a legendary band. But I'm going to deep dive all this shit and just really get to know Iron Maiden's music just so I know it, just for like a history lesson. So I started at the first album with the old singer and I just fucking plowed through, and I've noticed like the music fucking, every album's a little different. It's really fucking crazy stuff. And yeah, then I've hit a bunch of the live albums, listened to a few of their live albums that they're really good at doing live albums. Like, that's a thing that they do more than other bands. They've got more live albums than any other metal band. They've got like 12 or 13 live albums. Wow. Like, almost every time they do a big tour, they release a live album, And of course the sound is great. They do a great job of recording a live show and everything. So it's really well done. But they've got some amazing stuff in their catalog, obviously, for fucking Iron Maiden, But it's just been really cool because there's a bunch that I've learned about the band listening to all their albums. Like, you're like, oh, fuck, yeah, like, I didn't know this about them, or I didn't expect this type of music out of them on this one album, or this was cool, So I appreciate that. But that's part of what I do in the gym is I'm very actively listening to my music. Like, when Braden's doing his set, I'm listening to my song and I'm watching him rap out and I'm counting. So it's kind of like, it's part of my workout.
I was just going to ask you that, like, because for me, if it's on a playlist, I'm going to know every song that plays. So it's fine. Like, you're listening to shit you don't even know. But if you get
Yeah,
ready
I'm like,
for your big set, you don't pick a song?
so occasionally, yeah, occasionally
Okay.
that'll happen. But I'm very like, you know how sometimes if you pick like a playlist, there'll be a slow song on there
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
and you
Yes,
have to
I hate
skip
that.
it. Yes, I don't really use playlists. I pretty much only listen to albums. I don't really ever listen to playlists. So it'll be like, okay, I'm going to listen to Chevelle today. Like, I'm listening to this Chevelle album.
Yeah.
So I know I love that album. I haven't listened to it in a while. I'm going to listen to every track on it. But there's that one slow song I'll probably skip.
Yeah.
Unless it comes on when we're like in between exercises, I'll just let it play. But if it's like time to do my big set and that slow song happens to come on, I'll skip it, or I'll go to like a way heavier song from earlier in the album or whatever. I'll dance around the album a little bit if I have to, but I'll usually stay on that record. You know what I mean?
Wow. See, if I'm listening while I do my warm-up cardio, I cue every single song. So I'll cue an hour and 40 minutes of music so that when I get started, the only thing that's going to play is my stuff.
Okay.
And I might only
that's
train
awesome.
for an hour, but that way it's lined up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I'm shocked because I know
can
you
also
listen to the music. So that seems like that would be a distraction almost, because you listen and analyze like to the music. That's he's a lot smarter than me, so that makes sense. But
sometimes though the slow song can also happens to be very intense though. Sometimes a slow song can be intense, you know, so I don't always skip them. Like Henry Rollins has
I was
a
just
famous
thinking
thing.
that.
Yeah, where
was
he's
just thinking that. I was gonna say it after you were done. Yeah, say it. Say it. Go.
Yeah,
Go.
because he says he works out to power ballads.
Yeah,
like 80s power ballads. Like, don't know what you got till it's gone. You know, like he listens to that shit because he said like it's so emotionally triggering to him that he has like really great workouts.
Yeah.
You know? But he listens to power ballads when he trains. Well, that's what he said one time anyways. He said he listened to
I read
power
that
ballads.
too.
I thought that was funny. I was like, oh yeah, that'd get you going.
that's
like,
right up there with Jordan.
Yeah.
You know, Jordan, you listening to music that brings him down because he's already too high.
Oh, right. Right.
He's like, I need Lion King to kick it down a little bit before I walk up to that bar. That's wild.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
With the
solid.
dubstep, I don't have to change anything because I'll get like a 1 hour set or a 40-minute set, and I may play the same thing twice. And if I am strong enough to, that week to do like a progressive overload, like where I'm really going to push for a heavy set, I'll know that spot. Like you can scroll back and forth on SoundCloud. And you can see like the peaks and stuff, you know, in the music, and you can see like, I know it's at about 50 minutes is where I want to be. So I'll cue it up to like 45 when I'm getting ready to do that one big set, you know?
I think that we all listen to different versions of you do SoundCloud, Ron does Apple Music, and I do Spotify. That's interesting.
Well,
interesting.
I use Spotify sometimes, but it's just that the gym is usually using my Spotify. So I just like kind of lost my Spotify to the gym.
Now it makes more sense. Okay.
Like, so it's like, you know, if I go to use my Spotify, the gym loses their music, right? Because it like takes it. So I just let them have it. I use Apple Music a lot, but it works good.
That's funny. I didn't think about that.
You got another one, Dusty?
Let me see here. I have lots. Well, a lot of them have come through. The only problem now is I don't do a lot of questions for the show because I get less. But then when I put up a just question box, sometimes they're very specific questions to me. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really work. I use them later. Here's a good one. Do you think kids are in too much of a hurry to get big these days? The reason I thought that it was good is because I think that I was in a big hurry to get big also. So I don't really think it's a these days thing, but you guys go ahead and answer.
I don't see. That's the funny thing is I don't know if kids really want to get as big as we did. I think they want results faster. They want results faster. They think that those results should come really fast. I think people now do have a bit of an artificial expectation for how fast the results should be coming.
True.
but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they want to be bigger than we did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he meant bigger. I just think he meant they wanted to get there quickly. And
yeah, they definitely do.
I feel like the thing that changed,
remember,
and this is in all aspects, is there's the only thing I noticed, and this is even in our house, is there's a lot of conversation about the finish line. Can't wait to do this. But there's not a lot of focus on what it takes to get there. There's not like, I set out the goal to be 230. That was my first goal. No, 225 is what it was. And I stopped thinking about it. And I just thought about it every single day. And I find that a lot of people think about 225, but they fuck off many, many days between now and 225 and never get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but as far as the rush to get big, I was in a fucking rush. That's why it was like, oh, well, if I eat more calories, I'll get bigger. So I guess I'll go to McDonald's 3 times a day. And I got fat.
I remember a lot of times people would say, so what's the goal right now? And they would expect me to say like, oh, turn pro and do this or do that or win this show or whatever. Yeah. And I would say, they would say, what's the goal right now? And I'd be like, oh, the goal right now is to get to 245. And they'd be like, oh, like just weigh 245. I'm like, yep, that's the goal. And they're like, oh, so like, what's the timeline for that? I'm like, I'm not sure. I just eat as much as I possibly can and train as hard as I can until I'm 245. And then when I hit that, I'll, think about this next step. And I remember people just being like, oh, that doesn't seem like too like rewarding of a daily struggle, like, I don't know, but we saw it as that, like, that's how complicated it was to us. It wasn't at all.
I think you nailed it, though. It's funny you just said that. I have an email that I haven't answered yet where a client said, I see the path we're on. What's your plan with me? And he went into more detail. I haven't opened up the full email because I don't know until I answer it, but I realized he wanted a map. And my plan with him is to get him bigger everywhere. Yeah. And then we're going to get you really fucking lean and you're going to do a show. Yeah. And then we're going to get you bigger than you were when you were your biggest again.
But better.
And then we're going to get you really fucking lean. And that's it. It's just peaks and valleys. And every time the peak gets a little higher and the valley gets a little higher than the last valley. And that's it. Like, that's the full plan to bodybuilding. And I think you're right, Ron, is they want the sexier answer. And I'm like, that's it.
Yeah. I actually had a client that I stopped working with him. He's a great guy, but he just kept saying to me, he would be like, hey, like, what are we doing with my training? And I'm like, okay, so what needs to change about your training? And he's like, oh, I've been on the same program for like months now. I'm like, yeah, you went from 205 to 222 during that time. And you were doing, 105-pound dumbbells on the incline for 6. And now you're doing 115-pound dumbbells on the incline for like 10 with better form.
Yeah.
And that's been like 7 months. And he's like, yeah, so what's the plan now? I'm like, you just do that more.
Again.
Longer.
Yeah.
Like when you're progressing, just imagine all the people who train every day and make no progress at all.
Yep.
So when you can look back 6 months and you're stronger on all your movements with better form, arguably, and you're bigger and you're not fatter, like, you've had a good 6 months. Like, that's how it works. That's all, as complicated as it gets.
You wouldn't change that. It's not broken. You don't fix it.
Well, he just kept wanting new programs all the time. I'm like, first of all, I don't like, that's not my favorite thing to do. If you're looking for someone who's going to write you like programs over and over and over and over, come up with all these new workouts just to keep you interested, that's not really my wheelhouse. There's people that like to do that. They have 100 programs on their computer. They'll just fire you a new program every month to keep you happy.
Yeah.
But, and that's then, also newsflash, that's all they're doing. They're not really coming up with a new program to magically fix all your problems most of the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not about that. And it kind of goes back to our interview with Josh, remember? But like, you could coach, you can know all you want about programs and stuff, but the ability to read people and like, let them know what's important. Like, what's important is you continue to put effort on this thing you've been building that's been going well, and you have to stay patient.
Yep.
Yes.
And you have to be able to handle like boredom. Like, find something else that I don't know.
It's funny. I never found it boring though, because there was so much anticipation for the next workout to beat the numbers. Like, I remember waking up in the morning and eating breakfast and thinking about, when I get off work today at 3:00, I'm going to go beat that number. I got to get 7 today. I got to get 7.
That's
it was in my head.
It's being in love with the process is what that's called,
Yeah. I mean, so that's why it was never boring. It was an obsession, so I think that if you need that, you're not going to get the same results if you it doesn't mean don't switch things out. I look at guys, things like, your arms aren't growing. We got to look at something. We got to make a change. But when your back's blowing out of control and they're like, I'd like to try this movement, I'm like, why? Look at you. Fuck. I just don't like to fix things that aren't broken, because there are certain times, there does reach a point where I'm like, I've said that to a few guys. I just took a guy completely off of a progressive overload program because I was like, we have body parts that are way behind. So it's time now to get going, get those things.
Try to figure out why. Yeah. There's a problem with execution, or something isn't working right. Yeah. You got to see those. Or I think sometimes when you've got somebody that's really good at progressive overload, arms become an issue because so much gets burnt out on the body parts that are used with them that they don't get hit as hard. Because like by the time they get done with, or they save it, they do biceps, first, let's say, then they go do back. They don't want their back training to suffer, so they kind of piss around with buys. Or if they do back first, there's just nothing left. They're going to do buys and there's nothing there, so, but yeah, I mean, it's not that it's just, here's your program, fuck off. But if you're progressing, like you said, Ron, then why would you change? Yeah. And you have to be able to handle, like, I hate to tell you this because this is something people forget, but to be great at anything or to make real progress at anything, most people have to spend an enormous amount of time on the basics. Enormous, and never stop. It never goes away. I just think of like, anybody, like a musician in a band, like who tours with bands and does, studio work with bands and gets calls to come and play on this record and that record. Like, just think of how sound their basics are. To be able to play different types of music with different musicians. I got a call from Ozzy. I'm going to go play guitar with Ozzy. I got a call from Don Henley. I'm going to go play with Don Henley. Like, those are completely different types of music, but the guitar player can play them both. And the only reason he can do that is because his fundamentals are so sound. They are fucking decades pounded into him. And that's the same with like a bodybuilder who's 15, 20 years deep into training. Like, there's nothing magical about what he's doing in the gym at all. Nothing. It's all the fundamentals just repeated over and over and over. And take a physique like any of the Olympia guys. Like, just think of, how many fundamentally basic things they've done nonstop.
Absolutely.
And that's being in love with the process.
When you get connected to it, it was funny, but when I got out of the coma, my first thought was, how hard was training going to be? Because balance was off and a lot of things. As soon as my just basic balance was in check, which was a few weeks, training was the same as always. I was just weaker. Because the motor skills were locked in. It's the same reason that it didn't take 3 weeks to learn how to walk. It took 3 hours. Is the body just remembered. It's like you said, Ron, it's reps and reps and reps. So the first time I went into deadlift, I was like, yeah, I feel a little rusty. But I'm sitting down and standing up, same as always, and within weeks, I was like, all right, it feels like it always did. I mean, it was, I can remember because I actually was posting it. The first time I came back into deads, I did 405. The following week, I went up to 495, and the following week, I did 600. Just because I could. I was like, all right, good. Still do that. And that was just, that's the reps you're talking about. Whereas if you're new in the gym and you haven't cemented that, and you were to take a month away from everything, even without getting sick, you're gonna be a train wreck when you come back.
Right.
You know,
a train wreck. I always loved the term. I had one in my. Oh, you got a good one?
No, I said that is a good one. Also, another good phrase is coming in hot. I like that one. We're coming in hot, Ron.
There we go.
So how are you surviving, Scott? We didn't want to make this too long, so this might have to be our last one.
I think the fever or whatever is broke, so I'm a little better.
There you go.
A little better. Yeah.
I think you're okay.
Good, because we got one more.
I'll take some more. No. Kidding.
Yeah, finish the pack.
Yeah.
I got one here that was sent to me. We've mentioned this before, but I'm not sure if we fully explored it. What's the best physique to ever come out of pro wrestling?
Bobby Lashley. Do you remember him?
Bobby Lashley.
I'll look him up.
He's just a freak. I mean, you'll see. It's like, what is that? I don't know if he's the best physique because you got a lot of guys, but he immediately jumped to my mind as just a mutant. If he was bodybuilding, it would be bananas. Scott's going to pull him up. It's frightening how quickly I said that, by the way. I'm not even a wrestling fan.
Oh, yeah. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See?
he's good.
Ashley.
He could totally be a bodybuilder. A little more legs.
Yeah, there's a guy who doesn't focus on bodybuilding at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just a tank.
That's funny. I remember
Where are you
Lex
going with?
Luger. Lex Luger back in the day. A good young shot of Lex Luger. He's pulling up Lex Luger.
Let's see if I can find something here.
There was a good streak of them in the 80s. Lex Luger, the Ultimate Warrior. Lex was in good shape. There we go.
Oh, yeah, he was in
like,
shape too.
Getting front doubles.
Yeah.
He even had like a hands clasped, most muscular.
Yeah, he really did, man.
That's awesome.
And
you
know,
no
look
arms.
At that hair.
You needed to call me.
Look at that hair. That's what I really like.
No,
man.
I know.
Look at that neck.
Is that it?
Look how thick
Is that a
neck
mullet?
is. Oh yeah, that's a classic mullet.
Wow, Alabama
Classic
mud flap.
mullet.
Beautiful.
Is that what you call it? Alabama mud flap?
Yes.
And then, of course, the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh yeah.
The Ultimate Warrior was like, you got to find like a good picture of him at his juiciest of juicy.
I think it is a little unfair that I went with an age where, you know, they hadn't quite gotten rid of juice in the game yet. So, you know, he was blown out on the best shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many.
The Warrior. There's a bunch
Warrior
of
was
guys.
on, like,
Davey
test
Boy
only,
Smith,
though.
Davey Boy Smith was pretty juicy. He was like a legit 270, you know, power slamming guys. Yeah, you got the Warrior.
I do like that they were like in shape.
Yeah.
And then doing what they do. Like, that's brutal. I'm useless when I'm in shape. Fuck.
They should have
I
never.
don't want to stand in a booth.
They should have never had to stop taking gear, if you ask me. You know what
Every
I mean?
sport should use drugs. Who gives a fuck?
We didn't bring that up.
Remember
With
Juice
Josh.
them up.
We didn't bring that attention. We didn't bring that idea up with Josh, but
He agrees.
yeah.
It would help his job if he could juice them all up a little bit.
Juice them up.
Recovery. Yeah. I don't give a fuck. Come on.
I know.
I'm here to be
There was a
entertained.
bunch of guys back in the day. There was a bunch of guys back in the
Yes,
day that
all
were
of them.
pretty big,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, yeah.
Some shredded dudes, like Ravishing Rick Rude was like shredded.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he had fucking veins all the way up his abs and stuff. He wasn't the biggest
That's
dude,
awesome.
but yeah, there was funny. You know, we had a really juiced up, heavily drugged series of role models for me and my entire generation to
True.
grow up aspiring to be. They couldn't have been more juicy.
No,
I just
they really
think of
couldn't have.
like
We aspired to use
so
drugs,
Ron,
basically.
explain to me how you became a bodybuilder. Like, oh, I don't know. The Hulk, with
Yeah.
Lou Ferrigno, all the Arnold movies, all the
Yeah.
Stallone movies. You know, like we talked about
Yeah.
this many times. Like, there's a lot of steroids in our youth that we didn't
Oh,
even
yeah.
realize we were watching.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It is true.
And
It's
it
very
worked.
true.
It brought us all
90% of my and then plus we're watching like late 80s, early 90s NFL.
Oh yeah.
here. Oh, of course. Don't forget we were all here for the Bonds McGuire era in baseball. So
Yeah.
How
also
was a
known as the
surprise
best
to
era.
everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, how could that have been a surprise? Mark McGuire looked like he was holding a toothpick when he walked up there. He was so fucking big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
And he did it fast.
Remember that?
too.
Yeah, remember the scandal with the WWE too, where Vince McMahon had to go to court and testify and all that shit in front
what
of
a
Congress,
wreck.
and the
Yep.
government got involved. And then for a while there, all our wrestlers they were wearing T-shirts all the time and stuff because they didn't want to show
'cause
how
they look like
cleaned up
shit.
they were. Like,
Yeah.
you know, all these wrestlers they're coming out new tag teams that don't even look like they train. They just dance around and wear their clothes and like. Remember that whole phase? I was like, this post steroid wrestling really has gone downhill. This is
You
fucking
suck.
brutal.
We don't care.
Yeah. You suck. We don't care.
Nobody wants to see something that they can see at their home gym. They want to see freaks.
They really do. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I know. Okay. So is that it? We round up another episode. We did pretty good, guys.
I think we did. Absolutely.
Okay. Remember, everybody, like, share, subscribe, comment.
And ring the bell.
Ring the fucking bell. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Remember, Mutant 20% off. Use my code BigRon20 or Dusty20. Right?
IamMutant.com.
IamMutant.com.
You said Mutant
Thanks,
20.
everybody.
Threw me all off.
And remember, YouTube comments get priority. Correct, Scott?
Yes. And we appreciate all the comments you guys give us, and definitely, as everybody mentioned too, subscribe. We're gonna hit 20K by the end of this year, which is a nice. I'd consider that to be like a nice small channel. You know what I mean? Like powerful small channel, which is good.
Yeah. We're doing good.
Not
Doing
bad
good.
at all.
I'm happy. So what's this episode titled? This is a confidence, how to build confidence. Is that what this episode's about?
I don't know yet. I always figure that out when I go back, I rewatch, I get the timestamps and I edit, and then you say something funny and then it's called that, or, you know, Dusty says something poignant.
Drugs before work.
Yeah, it's called Don't Do Drugs, people.
Don't do drugs before work.
Pre-workout's a hell of a drug.
Or all my role models were on steroids.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.
Drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs.